Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, also streaming on expertcresecrets.com, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Now, having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit highly appreciated cryptocurrency. Primary homes, investment real estate, businesses, all tax deferred so you can create and preserve more wealth. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial wealth minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the group, I think, one of the greatest cities in the world, San Diego, California. And he's a real estate entrepreneur and expert at creating passive income while working as a highly paid professional. He's closed billions of dollars in real estate transactions as a real estate attorney, investor, and broker. He's the managing partner of Law Capital Partners, a private equity firm focused on multifamily and opportunistic real estate acquisitions. He's a former big law attorney and is now the managing partner of his own firm, Bradley Law Limited. And he is here to share so much with us. Please welcome to the show with me, Seth Bradley. Hey, Seth, how you doing?
Doing great, Brett. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Absolutely excited to get to know you a little bit more and hear about your story. So let's start right there. Tell us a little bit more about your story and your current focus.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, it took me a long time to figure this game out. I grew up in a blue collar family in West Virginia. So, we didn't have a lot of real estate or entrepreneurship or business type of focus growing up. So, I always thought, what's the best job I can get? And to me, that was becoming a doctor. So I started going to med school, went down that pathway, realized pretty quickly that that wasn't for me. I still had that W-2 mindset, still had that, work mindset. And the next best job I thought of was, hey, you should become a lawyer. So that's what I did. So I went to law school after that, did pretty well there, ended up getting a big law firm job right out of law school. And, I don't dislike practicing law. I actually enjoy the work because it is real estate related, and I love real estate, all things real estate. But what I did hate was just kind of getting caught up in that, office atmosphere, the office politics, kind of having to do all the, 20,000 bosses and billing 2,200 hours a year. And, I quickly figured out that there's a different game, and that's called entrepreneurship. That's called investing. That's called making money while you sleep. And we can get into that a little bit later. Fast forward a little bit. My private equity company, Law Capital Partners, we invest in private commercial real estate. Sometimes we bring on passive investors into a deal. Sometimes we just partner in JV with a couple of people and take down the deals ourselves, but we're full steam ahead.
Amazing. I absolutely love that part. Our traditional, sometimes families, that's what my family was. My grandmother growing up, she kind of paved the way for the next generation to go to college, right? And then my brother and I were the first ones to graduate college on both sides of the family. And so that created the new opportunity to go get a higher paying, let's say, job. I mean, my world was more like working as a broker, and then worked, and then moving into my own entrepreneurial journey there. So love that. So we'll dive into more of that here in a minute. And I love the idea of talking about making money while you sleep, right? Because I think that's the foundation of being able to get some freedom. But before we go there, Seth, I want to take one other step back to help our listeners to even get to know you even a little bit more, and to find out a little bit more about your gifts, to see if it might be a connection for you to help them. And it goes to this, maybe it's your high school days, right? Maybe it's the university days. I don't know. Maybe it's a young time when you're back and you're growing up, and maybe someone's telling you what kind of gifts and talents you might have, right? I believe we've been given certain gifts, and some people call these strengths or superpowers. I believe they're God-given gifts, and they're given us to be a blessing to others. So I'm curious, maybe what are those one or two gifts that you believe you were given, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
Yeah, I would say it's taking a complicated topic and boiling it down into kind of just the nuts and bolts, step by step. Here's what you need to do, rather than getting caught up in this huge big picture thing that you might not be able to wrap your head around. And I've kind of honed that in as well, being an attorney, because obviously legal documentation, legal regulations, things like that are very complicated. They're in a totally different language, and then when you need to explain those things to a client, dropping that legalese on them doesn't get you anywhere. You need to explain it in a way that everyone can comprehend and understand.
Excellent. And was that something you were doing at a young age, like where you found like those connections where people were coming to you, maybe with math problems, maybe it was something else, some kind of complex thing? You're the guy who could do all the what is that, a Rubik's Cube, right? You can put that thing together. Like, what do you like? Where do you think that comes from?
I think it's from my parents because they were both grade school teachers. My dad ended up having to go to the coal mines and make some more money, but they were both teachers by trade.
I love that. Cool. Well, now let's dive right into making money while you sleep. Here again, we're Seth Bradley. By the way, you can learn more about Seth Bradley at passiveincomeattorney.com. That's passiveincomeattorney.com. So Seth, what's the number one secret for you and or your partners, friends, family to making money while you sleep?
It's saving that money to invest rather than saving that money just to save. I think a lot of people think, I've got all this money in my bank account, especially highly paid professionals, doctors, lawyers, people like that. They make a lot of money, and maybe they save a lot of money, hopefully, but most of the time they just spend a lot of money. And it comes down to taking that money that you earn from your active income and turning that into passive income, making that money work for you. Now, a lot of people traditionally do that through just investing in their 401k or stocks, bonds, mutual funds, that sort of thing, because that's really all we know. Growing up with my generation and generations before, that's all you know. That's all they tell you to do. Just 9 to 5 till 65, plug this money into your 401k and you'll be fine. And that's great to do. But if you ever want to escape that job, if you don't absolutely love your job, or if you want to step away and spend more time on vacation or traveling or with your family and friends, doing the things that you want to do with the people you want to do them with, you've got to figure out another way other than that 401k and that retirement plan to start making your money work for you. And for me, it's been a couple of different things, mainly real estate, obviously a bunch of different facets. I've done fix and flips to buy and holds, residential, all the way up to 300 plus unit multifamily syndications. But also for me as well, you can also start a side hustle. You can start a different business outside of your main, income generator. But you need to find ways to generate multiple streams of income.
Perfect. That's great. I love that, Seth. So step one is to saving money to invest, not saving just to save, right? So changing the mindset there. And then second, making money work for you. So versus going from the 9 to 5 to 65, getting the money to work in, let's say, like things like real estate, right? Or something that you could be growing wealth on a larger scale. Is that a fair summary so far?
Yeah, you've got it.
Excellent. So step number two. So step one, you figured out that is the way to build the wealth. What is step number two to making sure your money is working for you while you sleep?
Yeah, so you have a lot of options, right? Once you kind of get over that educational hump that, hey, I want to invest in real estate or start a side business or, anything outside of my active income generator, once you've gotten over that mindset hump and you're like, okay, I'm ready, let's do it. Then I think you really need to examine how much time you have, because that's going to be the biggest determining factor as to what you can do and what you can handle. For a lot of the folks that I speak to, they're big law firm attorneys, they're doctors with a full-time practice. They don't have a lot of time. Time is their most precious commodity, is all of our most precious commodities. But for them, they don't have time to do fix and flips. I tried that while I was working. You don't have time to do something that it's that hands-on. You have to be there, managing the contractor, making sure you're not getting screwed, all this different stuff. Being an active real estate investor as opposed to, let's say, a passive real estate investor, it all comes down to time. Sure, you can make some better returns as an active investor, but you also have to get one over the big educational hump and get the experience and the expertise, and two, you have to have more time.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Right, time is the one thing we can't get back, and it's the one commodity that's ever going away for us. So calculating how much time, like maybe do some time tracking and or just looking at, do I even have the capacity to go into real estate by myself or this next business venture by myself, which might lead into maybe step three, which is perhaps finding partners or finding trusted people to work with. Is that a fair summary so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be the next step. Once you kind of figure out what pathway is best for you, once you determine how much time you have, then go down that pathway as to, whatever investment it might be. If it's, let's start with the active side. If you do have some flexibility, some freedom with your time already, I always like to use the example of real estate agents, real estate brokers. They have a lot more flexibility with their time. Sure, they're busy, but they have flexibility with their time. So maybe they have the time to invest actively. Maybe they can run a deal. They already have some expertise in the industry. If you go down that pathway, then you can look at, do you want to get started with something small in residential properties, or do you want to just go straight to the big time and start going into small to big multifamily, or some other asset class? If you want to go down the passive route, like you just mentioned, the most important thing about going down that route is networking, meeting sponsors or people that are running those deals that you trust and that have a track record to invest alongside with.
Excellent. And so your background is legal and a broker, right? So the attorney and then an investor, a broker, so all three into one, which I think brings you a unique advantage for your clients and for your partners, right? Because
Sure.
you've worn every hat. And so talk about that, my background too, commercial real estate. I'm still a broker. Right? I started out at Marcus Millichap, multifamily value add, and helping people buy and sell that, and then moving into this space of deferred sales trust, capital gains tax deferral. But talk about your transition, or maybe you're still doing all three, from the smaller deals to, hey, I'm going to syndicate and do bigger deals. Walk us through that and kind of where you're at right now.
Yeah. So real estate investing wise, I started out house hacking in a duplex, listening to Bigger Pockets, just kind of that traditional real estate journey I think a lot of investors take. Mine wasn't any different. The only difference was I was also working at a large law firm as a real estate attorney, a commercial real estate attorney. So I was exposed to massive deals and the people that were running those deals. And I think a lot of times people get started with residential real estate, let's just say a single family house or a duplex or something like that. And it's hard to get over that mental hurdle to say, well, yeah, I can wrap my head around a single family rental, but I can't buy a 200 plus unit complex apartment community. But I was exposed to that at my work. So I saw the clients that were coming in. I was helping them close these deals, and they were just regular guys. They were like you and me, regular dudes. It's not Donald Trump or somebody like that. It's just regular people. And you're like, all right, well, I'm helping these guys close these deals. I'm seeing the inner workings of it. I can see that it's possible. I need to get on that side of the table.
Yeah, I think that's big, right? Those who you surround yourself with, like your five people you spend the most time with, that's who you end up becoming, right? And so if you're around and you can see it, and I remember a similar journey for myself when I was brand new in the business in 2006 at Marcus Millichap. I'm looking around like, wow, these guys are closing these huge deals with, these huge checks, the most money I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, wait, if they can do it, like, why can't I do it? Like, it may take me a little time to learn it. But if I just keep improving and be coachable and learn and keep doing the things they tell me to do, eventually I can get, and I can achieve that. So I think that's so powerful that you said that when you're around it and you're surrounded, you're seeing it. And of course, the belief that you can do it yourself, then why not now go and take that action? So tell us about that first big, either 100 unit, 200 unit, 300 unit, where you really stepped up and you felt like I'm playing in the pros. What was that first deal? And what was the biggest hurdle you had to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, even though I was still around it, I was seeing these deals being closed from the legal perspective. It was still a massive mental hurdle to get over it. And, being an analytical type of person, I tried to learn everything I could. I soaked it all up. I listened to podcasts. I read the books. I got a coach. I did all this stuff, but it was still I was still stuck in that W-2 mindset. Like, well, maybe I should just put my head down and work harder rather than smarter. And, that first deal, it was a big step for me. And I basically just said, look, I'm a real estate attorney. I can help you out. I don't want to be the real estate attorney on the deal, but what I can do is kind of oversee all of the real estate attorney and the securities attorney on the deal. I can oversee their work. I can put a second set of eyes on it. I can go through all the contracts and things like that you need, and kind of act as an in-house counsel type of person, and at the same time raise some capital for your deals. And that was kind of how I got my foot in the door for that first deal. And it was 250 units. So it was a large deal. That's
awesome. And then did you have to find a partner? Because I think that's the other part, like, because there's the analytical brain, right? And then there's the different, there's a driver personalities, analytical, amiable, expressive, right? Different strengths, different things here. So you had to escape your W-2 mindset. Then you had to just take some action, right? But did you bring in any partners, or walk us through how that helped you to get to the next level?
Yeah, the big thing was networking and finding people that I wanted to work with. And I networked with other folks that were already in the space, that were already syndicating multifamily deals. And I met one guy that I really liked, and we hit it off, and we still talk, and we still do some deals together. And he basically brought me in and said, look, I'll show you the ropes. What can you bring? He knew that I had stuff to bring to the table from a investing background and a legal background. So it really comes down to networking, and again, surrounding yourself with those people that are already doing what you want to do, so they can kind of act as, a mentor of sorts.
Yeah. So on that first big 200 unit deal, the one that kind of, or the 300 unit one, are you, I'm curious, are you a GP? Did you do it with partners, or what was your role in that? And how did you solidify that role to make it a win-win for everybody?
Yeah, GP, came in as a GP, and like I said, raised capital, acted as in-house counsel. Helped review all the contracts and the documents that came in. Second set of eyes on everything, and continued investor relations.
Perfect. Love that. So that's really exciting, because I think there's yeah, like you said, there's ideas, there's the knowledge, and there's the action, and then there's the actual application. So what did you learn most about that first big one that you said, oh, I wish I would have known like this, or I would have done that? Or are there any kind of like little shifts that you would have made for somebody who's looking to step up from the commercial real estate brokerage world, or maybe the smaller single family duplex world kind of thing, and going big on like a 200 unit?
Yeah, I think the big thing is just starting to put things in as a system, and that's with really any business. But start thinking about things in a systematic way, as in, how can I repeat this on the next one? Let me put these things down on paper. Let me make lists. Let me build out my CRM and my marketing funnels and things like that. Now it's going to be very time consuming the first time you do it, but after that, those things are set. They're in place. So just make sure that you keep lists and have a really good understanding of what you're doing, why you're doing it, even though it is a little bit of a whirlwind the first time, so that it's repeatable the next time and the next time and the next time.
Got it. Okay. So building systems, right, versus just buying real estate, right? Like another way to put it, like, we're not in the business of buying real estate or raising capital. We're in the business of building systems and processes, right, and putting those key players in place to make those systems work. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. You can learn more about Seth Bradley at passiveincomeattorney.com. That's passiveincomeattorney.com. Okay, so we're going to shift into the capital gains tax realm. And I am curious, because you do have a unique background of being an investor, a broker, right? And also an attorney. So Seth, I'm curious, what's the biggest frustration either you, partner, friends, or family have faced when it comes to capital gains tax deferral options with, it could be primary home, it could be investment real estate, cryptocurrency. What's been the biggest challenge or frustration you found?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to isolate it to the 1031, and I'm sure you've heard this before, being in the DST space, it's just that rigid timeline, right? You have to find the property within 45 days, and you have to close on that next property within 180 days. So that's the big thing, is just being forced to pick a property maybe you wouldn't have been interested in otherwise.
Do you have like a story behind that, or either yourself or like a friend or family or client, where you're just like, I call it the, the 1031 shotgun wedding, right? Where they're just running around to get engaged in 45 days and married in 180 and maybe overpaying. Does anything come to mind, especially being in San Diego and California? I mean, these cap rates are as low maybe as they've ever been, right? It's insane. So any stories that kind of come to mind, either on the sell side or the buy side?
I don't have a specific story, but it's really the same story every single time. I try to get on a personal level with my clients, and it's always like, man, what, are you sure you want to buy this property? Like, I'm looking at it because I'm an investor myself. I'm like, are you sure you want to buy this? But they're like, yeah, I have to buy it because I'm up against the gun. I've got to take this thing down. And I'm like, you're kind of right, but you can look at some other options too. But sometimes people just pull the trigger to just get it done.
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't know, right? Kind of like the point where you said, like, until I saw it, when I was in the deals, seeing the deals, talking to the regular people that were doing something that I hadn't done before, right? It was hard for me to know that I could do it. And then once I took action on it, then it starts to become second nature. We found the same thing is true with the deferred sales trust, right? Most people have never done it or know about it, right? So when they say it can save a failed 1031 exchange, when they say it can eliminate the need for the 1031 exchange, like, it's such a big, like, mind-blowing concept that it takes them seeing people doing it. So we've collectively with across all of the strategic alliances over the 25 years, thousands of closes, billions under management, but still people think it's too good to be true because they've never heard of it. So I'm just curious, have you ever heard of a deferred sales trust? And if so, What's been kind of your overall take on it, if you studied it at all?
So I have heard of it, but I can't wait to have you on my podcast so I can have an expert on there to explain it to me, because I haven't gone into depth with it. I just know generalities and kind of how the structure works. I think the main concern that I've heard, and you can refute this, are just kind of the costs, the ongoing costs, to manage that, and that's
Yeah.
really the main pushback that I have heard about the DST
Yeah, so
structure.
it's a great way to look at it. So the ROI, right? And so most people look at the ROI on just kind of one level, like I'm deferring tax and what's the cost to do that, right? Which is important, which is why we do have a $1 million minimum net proceeds and $1 million gain. Like if your deal's not big enough or have enough gain, that means the pain's not big enough. Therefore, the
Gotcha.
fees don't make sense. So that's the first thing. We always start with the baseline there. But if we have that, we have found the second part of the ROI, besides the tax deferral, which, by the way, could be somewhere between 30 and 50% of your gain with depreciation recapture, depending on what state you're in. If Biden's proposal does go through, or he's pressed to from the 20 to 40, you can count that to be 50 to 70%, right? So the ROI becomes more powerful on that capital gains front. The second one has to do with the ability to delay income. Like an IRA, for example, or a 401k. If you put money there, it's growing tax deferred, and those investments are also growing tax deferred until you start receiving income from that IRA. So in the same sense, if you don't have, let's say, any depreciation left on your asset and you're doing a 1031 exchange and you're just receiving cash flow, guess what? You're having to get taxed on that. And so with the deferred sales trust, we can park the funds there and we can let the income compound and the interest compound and build in a tax deferred state. Like we just did a deal in Alabama for $2.6 million. He sold a business, which, by the way, doesn't qualify for a 1031, but it does for a deferred sales trust. He deferred all $600,000, but then he was able to go build 70 units, ground up development, multifamily, which is a powerful thing, all tax deferred. But the income from a lot of that deal is going to flow back into the trust because he's already a really high income earner. So this is going to lower his overall tax bracket. So you might have to go back and rewind what I just said to catch all of those little nuances. But essentially, it becomes like an income tax deferral ROI, a capital gains tax deferral ROI. And then the next one is the depreciation, brand new depreciation schedule. He had a zero depreciation on his business, of which he moved to the deferred sales trust. And now with the trust, he is building a property that's going to be worth, I don't know, let's call it $5-6 million, right? That's going to have a brand new depreciation schedule. And then I'll leave you with one more that might even blow your mind. It has to do with estate tax, right? So we just did a deal in Colorado, and this client had a $25 million estate. They're selling a $5 million property. Now, all $25 million is inside of their taxable estate. Most people aren't looking at the 1031 exchange for an estate tax solution. They're looking at it as a capital gains tax solution. But the big elephant in the room is this 40% death tax, okay? And so for them, they're going, oh my gosh, these exemptions are running out, right? They're gonna expire and be cut in half. And they need to get stuff outside their taxable estate. So on the sale, not only did we defer the tax, defer their income tax, right? Defer the capital gains tax, but then we moved the funds outside the taxable estate, which saved 40%. So if you add all of these four things up, let's just say, do you see, Seth, how it could become an investment rather than an expense? And by the way, what is the expense? It's about 1.5% to set it up, a one-time fee, and then about 1.5% to 2% on an ongoing basis, depending on how and where the funds are invested. And so, but if your gain is big enough, and if your savings on the estate tax and on the income tax is big enough, do you see how it could become an investment rather than an expense?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I like the flexibility of it, right? Like you're not constrained to those timelines, A, and B, you're not constrained to the asset type. I mean, I think that you can invest in just about anything with that DST. It doesn't have to be obviously like a like kind of exchange or a real estate or something like that.
That's a great point, right? You get the liquidity, the diversification, and then you get that one thing that we were talking about in the beginning of the show, which is your time back, right? So the 1031 exchange is a tax deferral mechanism. See, the deferred sales trust, and it does a great job of deferring capital gains tax on the sale of real estate property. But the deferred sales trust is like a time mechanism, right? It's kind of like a time machine, right? Because you can sell high and buy low, and then you can diversify. You can put it in the money in the bank. You can put the money in hard money lending. You can put it in ground up development. You can put it into to real estate deals, right? And so when you do that and you give yourself chances to find deals, not have to rush around, that's what changes the game. In fact, in 2000 and 2006, a gentleman sold an asset for $20 million, moved into the Deferred Sales Trust. 5 years later, that same asset was foreclosed on, and he reallocated the funds into the Deferred Sales Trust and bought this asset at 60 cents on the dollar, which is really powerful, right? Because he sold high and bought low, which is what our parents taught us to do, right? Not sell high and buy something that we really don't want to buy because the cap rates are too low. It's not making sense, right? In the 1031 exchange. And anyways, you can learn more about all of this at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, we're running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So Seth, knowing what you know now, if you can go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you make sure to tell yourself to do?
Get a coach, get a mentor, get someone that's already doing what you want to do. I was always put my head down, do it myself, figure it out myself type of guy. But that inhibits you quite a bit. You need to find somebody that's doing what you want to do and either A, mimic them, B, hire them, or C, see if they'll just take you under the wing for free.
Beautiful. I like that last one. Yeah. The other two are good too. Second question, what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
I've been recommending Miracle Equation. So everybody knows about the Miracle Equation. It's a little bit more fluff to the Miracle Equation, but man, I love it, man. I mean, it comes down to one statement. It's unwavering faith plus extraordinary effort equals miracles, or basically production or dreams coming true. And I love that book for a motivational standpoint.
Miracle Equation. Is that also Hal Elrod?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. Check that out. Amazing. Next question. What are you most curious about right now?
Lately I've been, I got involved in syndications, and you kind of see these 3, 5, 7 year, basically they're big flips, right? And that's kind of my introduction into it. That's where I started raising capital for and started running deals for. But I've been more interested lately in kind of the long-term approach. Like, let's look at this property as in, sure, we're going to refinance it once the value add is done and give you your capital back, but we're not going to promise you that we're going to sell it in year 3, year 5, year 7. We want to hold this property long-term and just keep improving the value, refinancing, getting your capital back, giving you long-term lifetime cash flow, which is why we all got into the game to begin with, rather than looking at it like basically a big flip.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I found that if you can own long enough and refinance smart, not taking on too much debt at the right time, and buy smart, you can, we'll say close to never lose in investment real estate, right? That's especially if it's 100 units or more, multifamily, and in good location. So, okay, excellent. Second to last question is this: after all your success and helping a lot of people, right, and doing everything you're doing, how do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach for new heights?
Yeah, there's many different things that kind of keep me centered and grounded and on track. I love to work out, going to the gym every single day, just about every single day, spending time relaxing with my wife and family, meditating, things like that. But I think the key thing that people need to do, and I try to do it every single day, is just take a few minutes of silence. And that could be wrapped up in some of the things I just said, whether you're meditating or praying or even at the gym with your headphones on and just kicking it. Just take some time to let your mind relax and think about what's really important in your life. And, think about the limited number of spins we have on this rock, and really focus on why you're doing what you're doing. Because I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs and busy professionals, we really just get caught up in more. Like, what can I do more? What can I do? What can I do? How can I fill up my day? Sometimes you need to take a step back and think about why you're doing what you're doing. And if doing more doesn't get you there, maybe you need to rewind and think about it a little bit more.
Amazing. Great way to end the show. And Seth, for our listeners who want to get in touch with you, can you remind them one more time what's the best place for them to find you?
Sure. You can find me on all social media, Seth Paul Bradley. But check out attorneybydesign.com and grab the Freedom Blueprint. It's 8 things your financial advisor doesn't want you to know.
Perfect. I love it. Well, Seth Bradley, thanks for being on the show. I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts of taking complicated topics and making them simple to help your clients, friends, and family create and preserve more wealth. And I appreciate you so much being on the show and get a chance to get to know you a little bit more. I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, also streaming at expertcresecrets.com, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to sell highly appreciated cryptocurrency, primary home, investment real estate, save a failed 1031 exchange. Also, you can create and preserve more wealth. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about the Deferred Sales Trust. We so appreciate everyone out there. Please rate, review, subscribe. Please share this with someone who could help out.